You don't read people, you scan them. There's a difference. And it's why you're more tired tonight than the dinner explains. You came home an hour ago. Your partner is asleep already. He ate the same food, sat at the same table, walked out lighter than he walked in. You walked out carrying the whole evening in your shoulders. His mother's mood in the second hour. His father's paw you topped up before he asked. The eyebrow lift you caught before anyone said anything was wrong. He didn't notice anything. You noticed everything. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly why, and why no one ever taught you to stop. Here's the thing nobody says out loud, because it sounds like a compliment when it leaves their mouth. The skill is real. The skill is excellent. And the skill is the problem. In 2002, a researcher named Seth Pollack at the University of Wisconsin ran an experiment. It should have been on the news. He showed children faces. Some of the children had been abused at home, some hadn't. He degraded the images, pixel by pixel. He wanted to know how much of a face a child needed to see, how little before they could still name the emotion on it. The kids who hadn't grown up with that needed a full face to spot anger. The abused kids identified anger from less, significantly less. A quarter of a face, a jaw, an eyebrow. Their brains had built a faster, hungrier scanner for one specific signal. A 2023 review by Brubb and her colleagues confirmed it lasts. Adults with this childhood still see anger faster than other adults, with less information. From across a restaurant. You weren't imagining it. When your mother told you that you were too sensitive, that you were making things up, that you were looking for a problem, your brain was actually doing something hers wasn't. There's a paper on it. There's a graph. You're not perceptive. You were paying attention because the cost of not paying attention was unbearable. Now here's where most videos get it lazily wrong. They say, this happens because someone was cruel. But the children who develop this skill at its sharpest don't always have a cruel parent. They have an unpredictable one. A consistently angry parent is awful. But a consistently angry parent is legible. You know what to expect. You can plan around it. You learn to come home through the back door on Tuesdays. The parent who builds the room reader is the parent whose mood shifts on you. Funny 1 minute, contemptuous the next. Warm at breakfast, withdrawn at dinner. Sober Tuesday, drunk Thursday. Adoring on Sunday. On Monday, acting like you'd done something to them. And you couldn't remember what, because you hadn't. Mary Main, the Berkeley researcher who mapped this in the 1980s, called the attachment style disorganized. But what she described was simpler. A child whose caregiver was, at the same time, the source of safety and the source of fear. You can't run from that parent. They're the ones who feed you. So the only move left is to study them. Constantly. Relentlessly. From age 4. Before you have words for what you're doing. There's a phrase for what you become. The tiny manager of the atmosphere. You learned the angle of his shoulders when he came home. You learned the difference between two silences. The silence that meant he was tired, and the silence that meant the evening was about to turn. The kind of evening no one would talk about the next morning. You learnt the cabinet door closed too hard. The footstep on the stair that meant, make yourself visible. The footstep on the stair that meant, don't. You and your sibling had an entire language made of eyebrow flicks, glances at the door, a specific tilt of the head that meant she's in a mood. You couldn't have written it down. You didn't need to. You both spoke it fluently by age 7. A writer named Iris Bennett described her own father's homecoming this way. And what stayed with me from what she wrote wasn't the fear. It was one word. She said these weren't skills she acquired. They were reflexes, and they formed the way a flinch forms, because the stimulus was that reliable. A flinch, not a talent, not a gift, a flinch. Here is where it gets harder. Most of you won't recognize yourself in the word trauma Your parents are alive. Your parents love you. Your childhood had birthday parties and family vacations and a dog. It wasn't dramatic. So when therapists or TikToks tell you you're traumatized, it doesn't fit, and you click away. Let me try this instead. You were given a job at 4 years old, reading the weather inside your own house. You were good at it, maybe the best person in the family at it, better than your mother, who'd given up parts of herself to do the same job for the same person. That job was real. It kept you safe. It kept the dog calm and the dishes from breaking and your mother less alone. Then, you grew up. You moved out. You built a life. Got a job. Got a partner. Got dinners with in-laws. And the thing nobody told you is, nobody ever fired you. The company closed about 20 years ago. You're still showing up to the office. This is why you're tired tonight. Not because the dinner was bad. The dinner was fine. Your partner had a great time. You're tired because while your partner was tasting the food, you were running threat assessment over the breadsticks. You were checking his mum's jaw between courses. You were watching his dad's wine level. You were 2 minutes ahead of every conversation, steering it gently, like a person walking a child through a crowd. This is why Sunday nights feel like dread, for no reason. Why you can't relax in a room you don't have eyes on. Why the second your partner says everything okay, you say yes before checking. You're already 3 rooms ahead of him emotionally. This is why a line from the writer Bethany Webster stays with people once they read it. She wrote that for years she felt a sense of menace during happy situations. She was waiting for the invisible hammer to fall during the calm. That's the part nobody captures. The calm itself becomes the trigger, because in the house you grew up in, calm was when the next thing was being loaded. So here's where most videos go the other direction and lie to you a different way. They tell you you're broken, that you have a syndrome, that your amygdala is on fire. You don't need that. You're not broken. You're also not an empath. You're not an old soul. You're not a highly sensitive person who happens to have been born this way. That framing is gentler. It's also a kind of escape hatch your brain offers you. So you don't have to look at where the skill came from. You were trained. You were trained by a parent whose mood you couldn't predict, whose love you couldn't take for granted, who was sometimes wonderful and sometimes someone else, who never made the rules for which version arrived legible to you. So you wrote the rules yourself, in your body, before you could speak them. You're not gifted. You're not damaged. You're trained, and the training was excellent. That's why the compliment you've heard your whole life, "You're so perceptive," sits on a wound you don't talk about. The compliment and the wound are one circuit. Here is the part I want you to hear. The skill doesn't go away. I'd be lying if I said you'll watch this and stop scanning rooms next Tuesday. That isn't how it works. The reflex was built in pre-verbal time. It runs deeper than insight. But something else can happen. You can know what it is. Right now, on the couch, with your partner asleep in the other room. The dinner still humming in your shoulders. You can know that the exhaustion isn't because you're weak. It isn't because something is wrong with you. It isn't because you should have more fun or stop overthinking. Things gentle people said, while not understanding the math your nervous system was running. You're tired because you worked tonight. We don't have a sixth sense. We have a shift that never ended. And tonight, the only person who needs to know that is you.